Welcome to Internet Protocol with Tish. I'm Letitia Mile. Oh, you know, every once in a while, we all need some space. A little time to ourselves. Oh, some privacy, please. But it seems with the Internet, there's no such thing as personal privacy anymore. We put so many aspects of our lives online for the whole world to see. We have online social profiles that list our likes and dislikes, political beliefs, religion, relationship status. Right, girl? We list our favorite books too, don't we, honey? We post resumes that make our professional lives searchable. Some people have dating service profiles online too. We have photo albums on Flickr and Tumblr and Facebook. Our private moments end up as video on YouTube or Vimeo. We even tweet or post status updates that broadcast our private thoughts. And some people even feel compelled to divulge the whereabouts of everyone who happened to be in their high school class on those reunion sites. And most of us are probably guilty of this one. Come on. We voluntarily provide our addresses, phone numbers, even the best time to deliver packages to our homes, to all sorts of e-commerce websites. Think about that the next time that you consider buying something from that odd but low price online superstore that appeared in your pop-up ad on your browser. Come on. Try this. Google your name. You can also put in your email address, your home phone number, your street address. See all the places you turn up. Or, here's a good one, try putting one of your profile pictures into images.google.com. Click the little camera in the search box, and it'll search for other instances of that same picture all over the web. You might be surprised by the results. What all this means is that with a little detective work, you can dig up all kinds of personal information on anyone, and others can do the same to you. What's happened to our personal privacy?
We're joined by John Cilio. He's an author. He's also an expert in identity theft, privacy, and information control. John, I got to tell you, I'm even wondering if privacy even exists nowadays.
There's not much of it left, is there? The advent of social media and all of our records online, it's pretty tough to find privacy.
Why is that?
Well, it's because there are commercial reasons to capture everything about us, whether it's our surfing habits or the keywords that we put into search engines, who we connect with, who we relate to, what products we use. It really comes down to business. It's good business to capture people's data, to know how to market to them better, and it makes privacy very difficult if you're on the internet.
So tell us some of the ways that we inadvertently leak our personal information that could be damaging to us, and we don't even know it.
Yeah, they're very basic ways. It's not any great fault we have. We just haven't really been trained to think very much about it. But when you set up a Facebook profile, for example, just the most basic of things that 750 million people roughly have done, and they ask you things like your name and your birth date, your hometown, and where you currently live. Right there, that's a huge loss of privacy. Not that some of that information is not available elsewhere or in the white pages, but what we're doing is we're starting to aggregate it into individual single places, and as that gets centralized, it's easier to have enough that it's really pretty damaging.
Why is it that some people feel that because they're alone in their home or wherever it is they conduct business on the internet, that they aren't really sharing the information? It's almost as if they feel there's privacy there, but it isn't. And is it a psychological thing? Oh, certainly no one's going to do anything with my privacy, or with my information, rather.
Yeah, it's that they've never seen the back end of it. If you were to go into one of your profiles, say that one of the credit reporting bureaus, or one that's really kind of disturbing is to see a back end Facebook or Google profile. They know, the words that you have typed in. They know the sites you've surfed to. And when you start to see that, whether or not it's embarrassing websites that you're going to, or compromising in terms of your health or your credit history, it gets a little bit uncomfortable, but the average person doesn't have access to that. And so we've never had that kinetic emotional response of, oh my God, these people know an immense about me. They know, whether it's loyalty card information, the pharmaceuticals that I buy, the magazines that I subscribe to, the websites that I visit, the habits that I have when I surf. Those are really personal things, but we don't see the product of that like we do when we go out and shout it out, in a public place.
What sort of advice can you give us then once the personal information is out there? Is there any way to basically reel it back in, or is that it? It's just gone forever and it can be used against you. Like you said, against is probably a strong word, but it could be used in such a way that potentially you feel violated, if you will.
That's the particularly difficult part about this whole subject is once you put it out there in any form, whether it's a post, a tweet, something you put on your wall, a photo, a video, we tend to think of it as private, and maybe we've even signed an agreement where to some degree it's private. But the reality is there's kind of the three basic laws when you post it. It's public, it's permanent, and it's in some way exploitable in most cases. It's public because the second you put it up, it's already backed up. It's screenshot, it's retweeted, it's forwarded. Just like an email, when you hit that send button, it is no longer your property. It's in the public domain whether you think it is or not. It's permanent. It will be there forever. Digital DNA, unlike human DNA, does not deteriorate over time. It is in the system once you put it out there. And we're learning more and more that it's exploitable, mostly for good things. I don't want to create a culture of paranoia here. Most of what we're doing, this is used in very good ways. We're reconnecting with friends. We're finding job positions that we wouldn't have otherwise. We're learning things we couldn't have without the internet. But it can be utilized against you, whether it's by an ex-spouse or an enemy, so to speak, a competitor, or an identity thief, or somebody who is, trying to harm you in some way.
Privacy is an illusion, then?
Privacy is a matter of personal responsibility, and it always has been. So you didn't used to share with the average person who called on the phone asking questions. You were skeptical, and now, whether you input that in just because it's digital and a little bit more virtual, it's not an illusion, but it's easier to abuse it nowadays.
John Cilio, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Now that we have a better idea of what's happened to our expectations for personal privacy, let's bang out some internet protocol, some guidelines that'll help us better understand what levels of privacy we can realistically expect, and the level of privacy we should strive for. First, every time you create a new online profile, make a note of it somewhere, in a special folder for bookmarks for all of your online profiles, or simply list them in a spreadsheet. That way you can easily keep track of your growing online presence. Periodically, go through those bookmarks and spreadsheets and get rid of the profiles that you're no longer using. Delete the accounts completely if possible. Only post basic information about yourself at first. You can always add more detailed information as the time goes on and you develop more trust for the website. Create a secondary email account that you use strictly for all your online profiles. Never use your primary email account. This way, you can delete the secondary email account and create another one if you start getting too much spam. If you refrain from using your primary email account, you'll be protecting it from spammers. Be selective about the number of newsletters you choose to receive and use that secondary email account for any you do decide to sign up for. Remember that many websites sell their mailing lists, and they could sell your email addresses to spammers who in turn sell it to countless others. And before you know it, your secondary email address could easily start receiving junk mail from hundreds of sources. Be careful where you input your personal data. If you feel something's fishy about a website, something probably is. So treat all your personal data as private information that you give out only on rare occasions. Provide only the minimum amount of information required. A website may require you to fill in certain fields like first name, last name. But if a website asks for your email address and that's not a required field, don't provide it. The same holds true for home phone numbers, cell phone numbers, and zip codes. Many websites put little asterisks next to required fields. Never provide more than you have to. Strip all metadata from pictures before posting them online. Many cameras embed GPS information in the image's metadata, enabling you to later pinpoint the exact location where the photo was taken. But if these GPS coordinates remain with a photo when it's posted online, anyone can determine where your kid's playground is, for example, or where a soccer practice field is located. To remove GPS coordinates from the metadata, all you have to do is simply rename the photo before you upload it to the public website. This removes all location-based information. Lastly, use caution when tagging pictures in online photo albums. If you want to tag yourself, do it with caution. But if you feel the need to tag everyone in your picture, remember that by doing so, you are linking their name with an image of that person. You might want to make sure they're comfortable with that before you do it. There you have it. Internet Protocol on ways to retain your personal privacy online. Thanks so much for joining us on this edition of Internet Protocol with Tish. We look forward to seeing you again next time.